Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
Sample 1, Task 1. The pie chart below shows the percentage of housing owned and rented in the UK in 1991 and 2007. Summarize the information by describing the main features of the charts and making comparisons where appropriate. Write at least 150 words. The pie charts compared home ownership and renting in 1991 and 2007 by percentage. In 1991, homeowners were the most popular housing type, accounting for 60% or more than over half of all homes. The next largest sector was social rented homes, accounting for 23% or almost 1/4 of homes. The remaining homes were mostly privately rented, 11%, and a very small portion was social housing, 6%. 16 years later, in 2007, the number of homeowners had increased by 70%, or nearly 3/4 of all homes. This number increased by 10% compared to 1991. Much of the increase in home ownership could be explained by a fall in the number of homes for social rent from 23% to 17%. The proportion of privately rented homes had remained unchanged at 11%. However, there were 5 million more homes in 2007 than in 1991, so the number of rented homes had increased despite the same percentage. Social housing had dropped threefold from 6% in 1991 to 2% in 2007, and it remained the least popular housing type.
Sample 2, Task 1. The pie charts below show the most common advantages and disadvantages of Bowen Island according to a survey of visitors. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. The two pie charts show the aspects of Bowen Island that tourists like most and least. Bowen Island has many features that attract tourists, but the most famous of them are its scenery and the people, with more than 2/3 of the visitors to the island citing these as its biggest advantages. The standard of accommodation on the island appears to be more than adequate, with 11% of respondents considering this as an advantage. 12% of visitors cite the island's culture as the main attraction. However, the island does not seem to be a perfect tourist destination. When it comes to the negative aspects of the island, the high cost of living, bad weather, and the quality or lack of entertainment are considered the worst of these. Together, these three categories account for 90% of all disadvantages. Although costs on the island are high, 10% of the visitors complain about poor food quality. Overall, it seems like most people like Bowen Island for its scenery and the people. However, this island's unspoiled nature means there are few recreational activities, and this, combined with the high cost of living, make it unlikely that the island appeals to everyone. The charts show the sources of electricity produced in 4 countries between 2003 and 2008. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Blue, fossil fuel; red, hydropower; black, nuclear power. The given pie charts provide information about the proportion of 3 different electricity sources in 4 countries: India, Sweden, Morocco, and Vietnam, from 2003 to 2008. In general, Vietnam and Morocco did not use any nuclear power to produce electricity. It can also be seen that although fossil fuels were the largest source of electricity in Vietnam and India, they only accounted for a relatively small proportion in Morocco and Sweden in the years surveyed. In Vietnam, 56% of the total electricity was produced from fossil fuels, while the figure in Morocco was only 5%. The remaining electricity in both countries was produced entirely from hydropower. However, in India, electricity from fossil fuels contributed to 80% of the total electricity produced, which was also the highest figure for fossil fuel used among the 4 countries. Meanwhile, fossil fuels accounted for 4% of the total electricity in Sweden. Hydropower and nuclear power contributed 52% and 44% respectively. The charts below show the percentage of water used for different purposes in 6 areas of the world. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Percentage of water used for different purposes in 6 areas of the world: industrial use, agricultural use, domestic use. The pie charts presented show information about industrial, agricultural, and domestic water used in 6 different parts of the world. As can be seen from the given pie charts, North America's water consumption has a striking similarity to Europe's. In both of these continents, about half of the water needed is for industries, nearly a third is for farming, and 13 to 15% for people's household use. Interestingly, the water consumption habits of South America are completely opposite to the North American region and are more similar to the water consumption habits of Asian and African continents. A large portion of water is used for agriculture in Asian, African, and North American countries, accounting for more than 8/10 of their total water consumption. The highest water consumption in agriculture can be observed in Central Asia's 88%, almost 3 times that of Europe. Household water usage in South America is higher than elsewhere in the world and stands at 19%. Only 7 to 9% of water is used by people in Asian and African countries for their personal use at home. Finally, industrial water consumptions in Asian and African areas ranges from 5% to 12%, and this is quite low compared to Europe and North America. The pie charts show information about energy production in a country of 2 separate years. Comparison of energy production, 1995 to 2005. The pie charts detail the distribution of different energy sources in a given country for the years 1995 to 2005. From an overall perspective, it can be clearly seen that the production of 2 main energy sources, coal and gas, increased slightly while petrol decreased significantly. Other and nuclear production also grew greatly, although they remained less popular in both years. In 1995, coal, gas, and petrol were roughly equivalent in energy production, with each slightly above 29%. By 2005, the figures for coal and gas had increased moderately, 30.93% and 30.31% respectively, while petrol exploitation decreased to only 19.55% of all sources. Data for the remaining categories were considerably lower, with other accounting for 4.9% of energy production and nuclear noticeably higher at 6.4% from the beginning. By 2005, other had narrowed the gap and nearly doubled to 9.1%, while nuclear energy use grew more slowly to reach 10.1%.